Hello and welcome. Today we're looking at the beginning of Matthew chapter 15, and it's a story of the Pharisees coming to Jesus with a complaint against his disciples. Now they come and say, look, your disciples are not washing their hands, the ceremonial cleaning before they eat. Jesus then turns the tables on them metaphorically and says, well, you don't actually obey the word of God. And there's a real warning in this because again, a few videos ago, I did talk about these people who just keep complaining, and we don't want to be religious people who are just more concerned with duty and observation of laws than about what God is about, what his heart is. And there's a real warning that we have to heed. Jesus says to them, so for the sake of your tradition, you have made void the word of God. For the sake of your tradition, you have made void the word of God. And so we can actually miss what God is saying. We can miss what God is doing for the sake of our traditions. Over the past couple of years, due to the pandemic, we've had the opportunity to reflect on our practices, but reflect on what is important. And I want to challenge you, what's changed in your life? Have any of your attitudes, any of your activities changed because of that? And I think it's quite natural that we can get caught up in things and not suddenly realise. But the pandemic has given us an opportunity to step back and reflect, and we need to do this to say, God, what is of you and what's not of you? And I don't want to have the things that are not of you, because actually they make void the word of God. They diminish the power of the kingdom because we're following the purposes of man. Jesus goes on to say, this people honours me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines and commandments of men. And so again, we can do all the right things. We can go through all the right traditions. We can go through the practices, going to church, reading our Bible, prayer, all these things. But actually, even when doing so, our heart can be far from him. And this was the thing. The Pharisees were more worried about the outward appearance than the inward heart. And what we need to be challenged about is our heart in the right place? Are we coming to God? Are we listening to God? And are we obeying his word, even if it contradicts the traditions of those around us? Now, whether those are cultural traditions or whether they're religious traditions, are we willing to go against them? And so Jesus is saying, don't worry about necessarily what goes in the mouth through the body, but worry about what comes out. What's coming out of your heart? That's where we need to focus to make sure our hearts are right before God, and that actually our worship is true, and that we're seeking to really follow the word that he has given us and not that which is just coming from men.